about 4 minutes. 3 minutes. At all.
I'm going to split the difference. My phone says 4:59, which is usually pretty accurate. That says 5:01. I will call this meeting to order. This is a workshop of the GBCEDC held Tuesday, May 11th, 2021 at 5 p.m. Roll call from my left, please.
Wyrick here.
Foster here.
Kyle here.
Lawrence here.
Ball here.
Colored here.
Johannes here.
We do have a quorum. Would you please stand for the invocation and pledge, please? Father, we thank you for the opportunity you've given us to gather here to take care of the business of this great city. Pray that you would give us patience to listen to each other and hear each other out, open-mindedness to do what needs to be done, guide us in all things we do and say. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to remind everyone that when they are speaking, please move the microphone close to your mouth so that the recording can pick up everything. This opens the 5 o'clock workshop. My intent, per the workshop agenda, we're going to discuss budget amendments first and bylaws comparison second. It is about a few minutes after 5. We're going to allocate 50 minutes to budget amendments. And if we're through at that time, we'll take a 5-minute break because this is going to be a long night. And then we'll reconvene at 6 o'clock and allocate 50 minutes for bylaws comparison, if that much is required, and then we'll take another few-minute break, and then at 7 o'clock we'll convene the meeting. If we finish the budget amendments in, say, 30 minutes, we'll still take a 5 or 10-minute break. We can move right into bylaws comparison. If we're through long before 7, we can just take a break till 7. We cannot start the meeting until 7. I want to remind everyone that this is an official meeting, so please limit your comments to those necessary. Let's not have any unnecessary comments or any attacks. Our workshops in the past have been somewhat less than successful, so if you want the floor, please ask for the floor. Please do not interrupt someone else when they are speaking. That's going to be kind of the ground rules of this. We're going to open with budget amendments. Ms. Cooper, do you have anything to present?
I don't need to because you have the budget amendments already that I have presented to you. And I incorporated within those some of the suggestions that Susan had made. And the final budget, final amended budget is before you. We just didn't get to it last time.
So the amended budget is what we had last time at our last meeting. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Let me I may have picked up the wrong packet. Does anybody have the motion on the budget that was approved at the last meeting?
I do.
You do? Could you read that, Mr. Kyle?
I made a motion that passed unanimously at our last board meeting, and it tabled the 2021 Second Amendment draft until the budget format is changed to be more transparent following our treasurer's spreadsheet that parallels the profit and loss statement and lists each individual type project, grant, or loan program whether it's funded or not separately. This new amended budget will only consider funding the 10 known overspent categories, which were estimated at $40,000 at the time, so we can pay our bills. We also asked Ms. Cooper that there'd be no more communication with any of the attorneys unless it was requested in writing and approved by the president and 2 corporate executive officers for emergency purposes, stating the specific need and anticipated charges are presented at a board meeting as an agenda item. It continued to say this suspends all new non-budgeted spending not currently found on the 2021 budget for the rest of the fiscal year, which ends September of 2021. We do reserve the right to have Ms. Cooper present an individual expense and/or project at any board meeting, creating a specific additional amended budget proposal using the P&L spreadsheet for each new item.
And my request is that you basically overturn that decision. That is my request, that you go with the amended budget as it has been presented.
That's not what was passed by the board. I think that we're under the obligation to, and my apologies, Mr. Kyle, I just found my paperwork. I think that we're under the obligation to continue with the motion as passed by this board to rework it and balance, if you will, those 10 line items. And that's our first step as an approved budget, updated budget. If we have time after that, we can certainly consider the second step, but I think this has to be a first step since it was a motion that was approved by this board. Does anyone see that differently? Board?
No, I have actually worked on that presentation for you, so I have.
Okay, well, it's the way I read this, Ms. Cooper was going to bring that to us, balancing those 10 items. You did not do that, is that correct?
I think the whole motion is not appropriate.
Well, the motion's here in the minutes. I didn't think I found my minutes. The motion is here in the minutes that we have to table the updated budget amendment and to rework it with the treasurer and freeze any new expenses. So I think we have to go one step at a time. As I said, if we get through with the first step, we can certainly consider the overall budget if time allows.
Well, if you would like, the only difference that I can see, and by the way, it is an extremely transparent budget, just as the budget presented to you at the beginning of this fiscal year was highly transparent. The only thing that is not there that Mr. Kyle asked for is to have the exact amounts for each particular project. So I can do that out of my head right now, if you would like me to.
Well, again, I think we have to do this one step at a time. If we can move on and get this balanced on these 10 items, then we can certainly move on to whatever else you propose.
Excuse me, what are the 10 items?
They're in the minutes. Do you have a copy of the minutes from the last meeting?
You mean all the things including not talking to the attorney?
No, the 10 line items, the telephone, internet, Big Chief Landing, facade grants, software, legal fees, office supplies, dues, miscellaneous, advertising, miscellaneous, and website. Those are the 10 items that, if I understand this correctly, were over budget currently.
Correct.
And
Well, that is all given to you in that amended budget.
I'm sorry?
I don't understand what the question is. You already have that in the revised amended budget. You have all of those. It shows exactly how much they're out. It shows that I have asked that those be covered, and that is how we're ending up with a deficit budget, the money to come from our reserves. That is all in that revised budget. The big thing that Mr. Kyle was not happy with was the legal fees. And the legal fees cannot change. The legal fees will not be changed. We are going to have to pay attorneys.
Robin, give a copy of that sheet.
We are going into a partnership agreement. We will have further attorney fees going through the next 6 months. There is no getting around that.
And I agree with that. The way I read this motion that was passed by this board is that our first step would be to come up with a number to finish the year on those 10 items that are already overspent, and then look at the rest of the budget.
Sir, with all due respect, I have done that in that revised budget.
Okay, do you have the
Do
revised
they not
budget,
have
Susan?
that, Robin?
This is the budget she submitted last time. What I have is part of that request in that past motion was to put it in a format that was mirroring the P&L, which is what I have done, and it clearly defines the 10 items that we talked about,
Which I had also done.
and it shows the total amount that we need to get to a balanced budget on each of those 10 items, and
Now,
it totals.
Susan, what do you mean
and it
by a
totals it.
balanced budget?
Ms. Cooper, does yours show the numbers needed to get through the end of the year?
Yes, it
On those
certainly
10 line
does.
items?
Robin, did they not have this? They had it last time.
There
We've
was,
actually had it the first week that we worked on this. Susan did not agree with some of the figures. So I changed some of the figures to comply with her requests. One of her requests was that we increase the sales tax income $65,000, and I did not do that, and I will not do that. And any good accountant would tell you that you underestimate income and overestimate expenses. That is what I did with this budget. There is nothing more to be done except for Mr. Kyle to agree that we can spend more in our legal budget.
Well, it's not Mr. Kyle. Again, the board voted that we were going to balance or come up with an amended budget to cover these 10 line items as a first step to get us through the year. Am I misunderstanding that in any of the board's opinion? Please speak.
No.
No, that's what I was understanding. We was coming up with to get this budget balanced, and then we figure out what we're going to spend from the balance point on, if spending anything.
Okay, that's the way I read this motion as well.
Excuse me,
So
Ron.
if we could, let's,
When you work a budget, you figure out if you are moving ahead in economic development. It is not like another budget. You hope that you will overspend on your projects, which is exactly what we have done. We are overextended. I had estimated $90,000 on something that we ended up getting with if you pass the last three, only if you pass the last three. We ended up having $225,000 in requests. We also ended up, as a result, with approximately $1,350,000 payback on that $225,000. That is great economic development. We invest in our community. We are not spending money. We are not wasting money. We do nothing that we shouldn't do. We are investing in our community.
there's no argument there, Ms. Cooper. Not hearing any objection from the board, I think we have to move forward with these 10 line items as a first step. Like I said, if we get through with them in 10 minutes, we can certainly consider the rest of the budget. But I'm not hearing anything from the 7 members disagreeing with the way that motion was voted on last meeting. So that said, that revised budget, if I read it, oh, is this it? Okay, this is yours,
mine.
okay. All right, at this time, I'm going to turn the floor over, I'm sorry? I will turn the floor over to our treasurer, Ms. Ball, to explain the adjustments she sees necessary in those 10 line items. At the end of each line item, Susan, if you'll pause for just a few seconds and see if there's any questions about that specific line item, I would appreciate it. Floor is yours.
Certainly, thank you. So the format that you'll see this in is the accounting code based on the P&L. And for me, at least, and I would hope that it makes it much clearer to everybody else, which the 10 items are. The adjustment column is at the very end in red. So if you look at the very top section, we talk about the income, and these adjustments to the income were made precisely as Ms. Cooper requested, for a balance of $671,000 total income for the year. Is there any questions on where we came up with those figures? Those figures were, correct me if I'm wrong, exactly what you asked for?
Well, what you have done is only show the adjustment. I have shown the actual final figure.
Can-
Show the budget. But if they are correct, they're correct.
Okay,
If you have gone behind, I agree with you.
Okay, thank you. So we start with 671. Go ahead, Ms. Ball.
okay, so under fixed expenses was one of the first of the 10, which was telephone and internet. At the highlighted one says the annual budget remaining was a negative of $1,575.39. My suggestion is that we take that deficit, bringing it to zero, and adding an additional $500 per month times the next 6 months to come up with a total add of $4,575 to that line item, so that the budget is not only balanced now, but will get us through the next 6 months of the fiscal year. Mind you, these are the March, off of the March, end of March numbers. So it does not include April numbers of any spend. It does not include April, I said. So March at the end.
So you're saying it's $500 off?
Okay,
Okay,
thank
well,
you.
The intent here is not to discuss why we're over. It's a fact that we're over. So her goal here is to say, I'm going to budget another $500 per month to get us through the end of the year and to take care of the deficit. So,
So
Excuse me, Joe. Yeah, just a minute. Could you turn your mic on? Your mic's not on or something. We should be able to be here a lot clearer than that. No, it's
No, we're
not
not.
coming across, because it should come across these speakers right here.
these,
did you have an amount in your budget from last month? Is there an amount for telephone and internet?
yes, so you can see right there on the third
No,
column
in
over.
hers.
Oh, no.
$5,200.
Yes, 5,200.
5,200.
Yeah, and I'm not going that high, I'm only going to 4575. And the reason I picked the $500 is because I went back on each of the months previous from October to check what that monthly charge was. And as you can see, in March, it was only $416, and the average was less than $500. So I went with $500 times an additional 6 months plus the deficit, and it would equal that for.
That's fine. Let's not argue over $100 here or there. Ms. Cooper, I don't see that amount in your amended budget for telephone internet.
It's 5,200.
It's what?
5,200.
Yeah.
It's right here on the first.
She has telephone, internet, and IT contract was 5,200.
So I'd like to know
I've got 1,500. Am I looking at the wrong one?
what, where you each, where did you get your numbers, Gail, to come up with 5,200?
Apparently, I've got an old copy. I don't have this copy.
There you go. You can have that one.
Okay.
I have this one.
Should have, if you
I've
look
got
on your
this one.
first page, the yellow 2,000 should be highlighted. That is the correct copy.
Yellow 2,000.
Under, in income, 2,000 should be highlighted.
What am I looking at?
Okay, I've got the wrong budget.
The copy she just gave me does not have
Does
that.
not have that
Does not
highlighted.
have,
Yes, it does.
I don't have 2,000 on anything.
Okay, this is the one I gave you last week.
Robin just gave
No,
you,
I've got, mine. Did you look in the book?
Okay, Robin just gave us this, and it doesn't have 2,000, it's not highlighted.
no,
Okay, well, we're within 300 or 400. We've got to move on if we're going to.
you have to remember, you've submitted several different versions. I have a first revision, a second revision, and now Robin's giving me.
Okay, well, let's move on. So, is there any question about that? Susan's allocated about $500. It's running 416 to 430, something like that a month. Everybody okay with telephone and internet?
well, I want to know why there's a discrepancy between what Ms. Cooper suggests and what Ms. Ball suggests.
Ms. Cooper's is $325 more, or
Well, yes, I
$525 more.
can do math. I just want to know why.
Yeah, I don't know where she came up with the 52.
Maybe Ms. Cooper was more lenient with her estimate. Ms. Cooper?
I honestly am not concerned about $325. We
Nor
can
was
go
I.
with everyone you want.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Ms. Collard, does that answer your question?
Good enough.
I do need to answer Joe Kyle's question since it has gone in. No,
We're
there
doing
are
this
not-
line by line.
There are
Please
not.
don't interrupt.
Okay, Joe, did you have a question?
No?
Okay, if no question, let's move on. Ms. Ball, next
Okay.
item.
Thank you. So then we move down to Big Chief on the same page. And there's a deficit of $9,802.15.
Excuse me, which item are you on, Susan?
Big Chief Landing?
Big Chief Landing, I think you all know what happened there. Now, when I came in, I knew nothing about Big Chief Landing, so I did not know about the loan payment of $90,000. And by the way, Mr. Kyle reported it to the Attorney General, to the Controller as $39,000. It was not. It has always been $90,100 every year, but I was unaware of it, totally
Ms. Cooper,
unaware of it.
if I could interrupt, we're not trying to rehash the past or figure out why we got where we are. We're
Okay,
trying to
well,
put
then we
enough-
need it in there, right?
We've
Because
done
it's
that.
every year.
We have done that, and everybody understands it was a COVID year, and it was hard to budget and everything. Nobody's blaming anyone. We're just saying, she's saying we're 9802 in the negative. She's going to add 9803 to get it to zero. All we're trying to do is get things.
What is 9803? I'm sorry.
That's the.
Under
if
the
you-
big,
That's the number she's trying to add to the.
the interest expense line?
There is no interest expense, Susan. The $90,100 covers P and I.
This
There
is
is
straight off the
no
P&L.
interest expense. There may be, if you're looking at a different type of a financial statement, as far as income and expense are concerned, there is no interest expense. The only expense is $90,100. Then there is a $10,000 payment, which we have now taken on, that goes to the city for maintenance. So it is 92,100. I'm doing it in my head, 91,200.
Okay, well, if we're not going to argue
And
over a
that-
few
whatever
hundred,
it
she's got
is.
98.
But there is no interest expense, Susan. You are wrong about that.
Okay, Susan.
Okay,
Well,
right.
now,
So,
now you've got me mixed up, so I'm going to interrupt. I'm looking at our profit and loss statement for March of 2021. There is a line item under projects and programs that says BCL interest expense. $9,802.15. This was an unbudgeted item, therefore we are short on the budget, $9,802.15.
That is not correct.
You're the one who
We
sat down
only
with our
pay,
bookkeeper
this
and
is,
created
this
this
is
P&L.
a budget. It is income and expense. It is not anything to do with accrued interest or any kind of depreciation or
It is
anything
an
else.
interest expense that has been shown on our profit and loss statement.
That we were presented in the package and we've been approving every month. Is it incorrect?
On Big Chief Landing?
Yes.
Yeah, it's under projects and programs. It shows.
Well, then it is incorrect. I'm sorry. I'll have to talk with our accountant about it, but it is not correct. We pay $90,100, and that includes interest and principal.
Okay, for clarification for everybody, these were the 10 line items that we identified before as being in deficit. So that's all I'm doing is going over the 10 line items. This happens to be one of those 10.
Okay, the $10,000 is legitimate. That is the cost that we have agreed to pay the city. We have not paid it yet, but we will be paying it, the $10,000 for maintenance costs.
I don't see
Okay.
that on the P&L statement. Is that a separate line item? That is non-allocated, separate line item. So I don't know what this is,
The
but
one I gave you, sir.
it's on the P&L statement as interest expense. Do you want to call it something else?
If you would please go to the budget rather than income and expense statements, you would be much farther ahead. We are amending a budget. When you amend a budget, you take the original budget and make any amendments necessary. That is what we are doing.
Okay, so your budget shows 60,100 and 10,000 for Big Chief, but the P&L statement shows 9,800 plus 10,000 plus another.
And doesn't it show anything for a payment?
The budget has no headers on
No,
the
no, no.
columns, so I
The
don't know.
P&L statement, what does that say? If you're looking at March, what does that show for the year's payments?
Susan, I'll let you address that.
$10,127.15.
And that is, see, that's the problem with breaking this down into months. We pay it once, and it is, I'm sorry, did I say 90? If it's
The
90.
loan was for $60,100, if I remember correctly.
I think it is. I thought it was, I'm sorry, I haven't been able to read for a week and a half. I am having to do this entirely from memory. But whatever that figure is, it is correct. It is what we have paid each year. This is the third year we're paying it. And the additional $10,000, I wish I could read.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to suggest we move on and go with the P&L adjustments as we agreed to. I mean, we're 30 minutes into this. We're going to be out of time, and we're going to have to table the budget again if we don't.
So, excuse me, what are you saying then is going to be the remaining budget for Big Chief Landing?
We're saying exactly what this P&L statement says.
No,
That's she
what are you
said.
saying is going to be the remaining amount allocated towards that?
So let me re-ask the question a little differently. I think I'll get to the same point you're trying to make.
Thank you.
I do not have any idea what this interest was for 9802 unless they broke it down separately from the principal payment. And if
I think that's what the accountant has done.
and if that's true, there is no principal payment showing on our profit and loss. So
And
we're
that
short
is not
another
good because it
$50,000.
was, and it's only because it was paid in a particular month and needs to be paid annually. So she may not have broken it down correctly. But if you will please just go by the budget, you won't get confused.
Well, I have
Ms.
confusing
Cooper, let me reiterate,
budgets.
we cannot go by the budget because the budget numbers don't add up.
Budget number, if you go down to Big Chief Landing in the budget on the third page, it says 60,000 plus, well, 60,100 plus $10,000 meaning 70,100 that was not in the previous budget. That is why it has been brought over into the budget adjustment column. The budget adjustment column starts on the first page, and all of these numbers over in that last column are the budget adjustment, adjusted budget amounts.
So you're saying we need to add $70,100?
Well, if you only have 20,000, yes, you certainly do.
I don't know what we've got. I don't see it anywhere. Ms. Ball, can you make sense of that?
Are you looking at the budget, Joe?
No, so the P
I
and
am
L.
looking at the budget.
Yeah, the P and L does not have the spending that $60,100 in it, correct?
May I please ask you again
I
to
just
look
wanted-
at the budget?
Just wanted to ask you a question. So,
As far as I know, she may be doing it on an accrual basis. It sounds like she is. That's part of
there
why
is
you
nothing
don't-
accrued under the P and L for this money. Do you know what month it was paid? You said it was paid all at once in 1 month? Because it's not showing up anywhere in our fiscal year so far as being paid, that $60,000.
So that is money to
Oh,
be
it hasn't been paid for this coming year.
For the fiscal year we're in, it has not been paid.
I don't believe so. I think I paid it not long after I came.
So what you're saying is you don't have enough in your budget for the actual, what the payment's going to be.
And that's why I had to add it.
So that you're adding that, because it wasn't in the budget
Exactly.
at this amount.
It was not in the budget.
So the payment itself is,
$60,100.
and what you had in your budget was,
Zip.
okay.
I stated in
wasn't
the
budgeted.
budget,
That's
I
why
could
there's a
not put
zero.
anything in for
it shows
for
annual
Big
budget
Chief Landing because I knew nothing about that project.
Ms. Cooper, that was in
wasn't
the
going to
2019
guess.
budget also, and I gave you the historical budget that we worked off of from 2019 to 2020, and you helped create a 2021 budget, and that was there, and I'm looking at those numbers now.
Sir, that budget that I was given was amended 7 times, and it was a ludicrous budget to begin with. I had to go from what I could glean out of the terrible numbers that I was given. And if you go online today and look at the 1920 budget, you will see that that terrible budget that only lists with no line items at all, only lists a bunch of numbers, you will see that that is still the case. Our new budget is the way I did it. It's this style, from which I created the P.
Well, I don't mean to argue with you. You can go on the website, and anybody who wants may look at the 2019-2020 budget. I have it in my hand. It's in front of me if you'd like to look at it. It's categorized by the line item budget numbers. That's really irrelevant. If
Point of
we
order.
have a payment coming up,
Point of order,
we need to know how much it is.
Yeah, if we got a payment,
point of
regardless.
order.
It's $60,100, period.
Okay,
So
Ms.
may I-
Ball,
may I
do we
make a
need to add 60,000 to this?
Yes, may I make a suggestion? So she has $60,100, and then she has an additional $10,000, which I'm assuming is for maintenance.
It's to the,
That is for maintenance, and that is
So
stated there.
if you look at the adjusted that I'm trying to do, the adjustment for the 10 line items again, those two add up under there of like almost 12, well, a little over $12,000. So that takes care of the 10, and therefore I would just, add another 60.
yeah,
That's what it
And
sounds
I
like.
think we'd be good.
yeah, because we have to
Okay, so
cover the
wh-
payment.
Okay, so we
What are
added an additional $60,000 to that line item.
50?
60.
60.
Yeah, because you
We'll
would add
follow
it-
Gail's numbers off her
And then
second.
there should be plenty of
Amended
money in there for Big Chief.
suggested
And we
budget.
can
As
move
long
on.
as you end up with $70,000 in our budget moving forward, I'm
Okay.
fine.
That's
that will
what there
do
will be.
that.
That
So
will,
70,000 total?
that'll be like 72, almost
70's the total?
73. Okay?
Is that right? 70's the total?
Well,
No, it'll be just over. That'll be about 73,000.
we've still spent,
Are we going to block all this out?
No, we're going to keep those two line item adjustments
Okay.
to the budget so that they're zeroed,
Okay,
and then add a $60,000 for the actual payment of the loan, which isn't included in there, and I can add that
so on
as a
Big
line
Chief,
item.
we'll have 9803, 2275, 12,500, 10,000, and 60,000.
Correct.
Okay,
And that equals the number we,
all right, we've got to move on. Any questions on Big Chief?
no.
Okay. Ms. Ball?
Okay, next we have, still under the same category, the allocated expenses, again, were $12,500 spent over.
Which line item are you on, Susan?
It's allocated for the grant, under the
Oh,
grants.
grants, okay.
The allocated amount, it was budgeted for $40,000, and we've spent $52,500, so we're $12,500 over budget.
Sounds
So I
right.
suggest to add the $12,500 to make it even. Just underneath that's the non-allocated, which is the same line item for grants. Again, a budget of $90,000, spend of $100,000, so we are $10,000 in the hole there, and I suggest that we just match that $10,000 to get it to a zero balance again.
Any questions on those two?
Okay, so I do have a question. So we're zeroing out the budget where we're in a deficit, but are we going to have any money for the next 6 months of this fiscal year for any grants or any of these things that might come up?
This time, according to what we passed last time, any additional grants would be submitted separately with a new amended budget. So
Sir, I'm sorry, I do not agree with constant amendments to the budget. When you are in economic development, you determine what you think will be your year's program. Those funds are allocated, and that is what we go by. As I have explained, and it's all on me, I way underestimated how important these grants were going to be to our community. So we ended up being over budget with them. However, the amount that I have put in, the $225,000, and by the way, Susan, it's actually $150 that we were at. The $225,000 includes $75,000 that you are to vote on later on tonight. I do not believe that it is correct to pull the funds for projects simply because you did not budget for them when you have a very, very successful program that is moving your community forward. That's what we do in economic development.
And if we can get through these 10 line items and get to funded to the end of the year, we can certainly discuss those grants if we have time.
Well,
We've got to move on, or
provided we get them into the budget.
if we have time to do that, we certainly will. But we've got to get these 10 items balanced first.
right now, we're $120,000 short.
Okay, well, let's
gotta-
move on.
we gotta
Let's-
cover that.
One line item at
Was
a
there,
time.
was there any questions on either the allocated or non-allocated amounts? Again, it was just to get it to a balanced budget at this point.
It is not a balanced budget. It is a deficit budget.
It is definitely a
Okay,
deficit budget now.
Definitely, but I'm
Okay.
trying to get
All
it
right,
to a
let's
balanced
move on.
amount.
Any
all right.
questions? No. Ms. Ball, go.
All right. The next line item was under other miscellaneous, which was variable expenses, and we were just $317 out, so I just added that to the budget.
No questions? Go.
Under marketing, advertising was, again, in a deficit of $1,975. And so, again, I'm just adding that $1,975 to the budget.
No questions? Okay.
The next line item down is office supplies. Now, office supplies was, you'll see it highlighted as $1,350, 25, I believe, or 26, whatever that says, 29.
We're kind of going all over the place here.
No, I'm following the P and L.
Well,
Ms. Cooper, we have to let her have the floor unless there's questions,
just a
please.
moment. We need to deal with our fixed expenses and then our variable expenses. So where are you right now? Are you in office, which is
I'm in
fixed
variable expense,
expenses?
under variable expenses, office expenses. Office supplies.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so there was the deficit, we're currently under 1,350, basically. I have put in $4,170 to make up that deficit and supply $470 times 6 months left. So basically another $470 for the next 6 months to cover those expenses going forward.
Per month, okay?
$470 plus what?
Per
Plus-
month for the next 6 months.
Plus the
office
1,350
supplies.
that we're already in deficit.
So you think $2,000 is going to do it?
No.
No.
It's
4,000.
4,000.
4,170 plus, yeah.
You think 4,000 rather than the 6 that I recommended?
Well,
Okay.
there's 2009 later.
Yeah.
The next item,
So there's actually $7,000. Ms. Cooper,
Are you following Susan's profit and loss?
she can't really see right now.
I am trying.
We've got
then-
4170, okay. Let's move on.
The second line item, again, is the software purchasing and upgrades, which was in deficit of 2910, and I'm just making up that amount of 2910 to balance it.
Okay,
Zero
any
it out.
questions on those?
So the total is $7,000, Gail.
If you're considering all of the office expenses as a combined, yes.
Yeah.
That 2910 may have to be reallocated by the bookkeeper. I believe that was a computer, so I think it needs to go into
Yes.
office equipment instead of office expenses.
That was the 2 software programs that we have to pay our half of.
Okay, all right, so we're good. We're down to one more item.
The general legal fees, again, in a deficit of $5,219.93. I suggest making up the deficit plus adding an additional $5,000 to get to the rest of the year, which would be an addition of $10,220.
And we,
How does that compare with what I have stated? Because again, this is pure estimate on your part and mine.
Well, I'm going by what the monthly expenses were and averaging them, and then, you know,
We can't do that. It doesn't work that way because we have big projects coming up that are going to be
Well,
expensive.
if there's a
spent a
big-
year was 15.2, you've got 25, so that's $10,000 difference. She's adding 10,000.
Adding 10,000,
That's
so we
real-
will be at the 25 I had recommended? Is that correct?
Is
We're
that
not,
correct?
we're switching
total
formats.
spend would be,
yeah,
Is that correct? Ms.
What will
Ball?
the budget be? 25,000?
total for the
Total.
year.
total for the year.
Yes,
Not
correct.
not
We are
additional.
amending the budget, so that's what we need to look at.
Okay,
So
so
the total amendment for the budget would be,
would be the 15,219 plus the 10.
10,000.
correct. That's
Good.
for
So
just
we'll
the
be
legal
at
fees.
25, that's good. That's what we need.
Okay.
She's giving you more than you.
I know, I noticed that, that's okay.
So what is your total, Brandy? Did you add that?
I did not,
Oh,
but it's obviously more.
well, we need to know the totals, so
$118,746, that sound right?
118,
I mean, we're taking these numbers and we're adding 60,000 to it, is that correct?
Illegal?
On legal
Yes.
fees?
No, we're past legal fees.
What?
We're in the legal.
Where did we go now?
So to the add to the.
So that, the grand total add to the budget,
Oh,
$58,746, my eyes are going bad,
58,746 plus the 60,000.
plus 60.
plus 60.
So that's $118,746. Any questions?
So can you tell me, what is our deficit budget amount at this point with Susan's budget?
I'm sorry, what your question? What is our total deficit?
What is our total deficit amount with your budget?
With my budget, we wouldn't have a deficit. What's the total you just said? 118,746.
So the only thing basically that you have taken out, it looks like, is the contingency fund.
And there's no budget in there right now for the additional 3 grants that you would like to present.
And we've tabled those.
Apparently you don't want to do that, so,
We're not to that point yet, Ms. Cooper. We're trying
Okay.
to get these We're trying to get the 10 items that are currently overspent back to zero to present a somewhat balanced budget, a budget that will get us through the end of the year. It will still show a deficit. It will show a deficit of $118,000.
And mine shows a deficit of 131. So there's something wrong,
But I'm not real sure
because
what you
I
did
allowed
with
the
these items.
225,000 and you didn't. So there's something wrong.
Well, I'll tell you what the difference is because we just examined those 10 line items, and we just made a change to those 10 items. So your additional deficit has your extra slush fund in there and different things like that.
Oh, you did add the 30,000.
No, I did not. So there's the difference between our numbers, is what I'm saying.
Okay, I can't read, but I can multiply, I can subtract. Mine says 131 negative, and you just said yours says 119 negative?
Close enough, yes.
How can that be?
Well, because your budget doesn't allocate any more money for these 10 line items. I mean,
No,
doesn't
I'm
do them
saying
individually.
yours is only undermined by approximately $12,000, and yet you have not counted an extra $75,000 for the
That is correct. We're
grants that I
following
put
the
in. And
board's.
you have not counted the 30,000 for the, what you call a slush fund. So
Correct.
how are we so close together?
The reason being is because you did not allocate extra funds to balance those 10 line items in your budget.
Susan, I'm looking at the bottom line. Why is there a difference to my advantage?
She just answered you.
There's
All
not.
right, I'll let it go.
To your advantage, there's not. We did not take into consideration all of the additional items you had budgeted for and ignored where we were overspent.
Okay, then I am
First 6
perfectly
months of
happy
the
with the
year.
$119,000 negative budget. Very happy with it, so thank you.
Okay.
And we'll examine it later.
Between the budget she give us right now and the budget we got to straighten this out, we're $12,154 difference.
Yeah, and that's what she said, we're 12,000.
That's exactly what I said.
The spread has come together.
The whole deal is we're trying to get it balanced out to where we know where we're at, how much more money we can spend, or we're gonna be trying to spend money out of our reserves.
Well, we're $12,000
we're
out,
looking at.
sir, and we are not spending money. That is what you need to understand. We are investing money
We
in
can
our
talk about this
community.
all day about spending money. Anytime we give money out here to anybody, we're spending money.
Okay,
No,
we're
we're not.
going to be out of,
I don't wanna get into
time.
this right now. We're trying to get this part of the budget straightened out.
Okay, so we can get, if everyone's in agreement on these 10 line items, and this will get us through the end of the year with a little bit of allocated additional spending in a few categories with a deficit of 118,746. So at this point, is everybody okay with that? We can't vote on it here, but that's what we're going to vote on as an amended budget in the meeting at 7 o'clock, unless we have time after we go through the bylaws to consider adding, for example, $75,000 worth of grants. And we can argue about that after bylaws, if y'all want to. So is everybody in agreement with the budget? If so, it is 10 till. Let's take about a 5-minute bathroom break if anybody needs it, and we'll reconvene at,
Well, we have to reconvene by 7.
well, we're going to reconvene to do bylaws in 5 minutes. So I'm going to reset my alarm for 6:55.
Okay.
Do we have the same, we need to find out, do we have the same income amounts?
I adjusted to your numbers.
6:71.
672.8 total?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, we're good.
Yep.
We only came out 12,000 apart. I'm delighted.
Okay, it is 5:55. We are back in the workshop session, reconvened. We will move on to the topic of bylaws comparison. The council voted, Mr. Yaws proposed, made a motion, and it carried to have the board, not the bylaw committee, but the board review the bylaws. We chose this day today as the only day that this entire board was available. I appreciate everyone dedicating so many hours to this task. We have to do what the council directs us to do. So that said, this is a comparison of, I think Robin included 3 packages in our packet. The 2019 amended bylaws as approved by the city council in 2019 that we are currently operating under. The 2019 amended bylaws as reworked, rewritten, amended by Ms. Cooper, the executive director, and finally, the 2021 amended bylaws as prepared by the bylaw committee and adopted by this board. The difference in the latter being that this set that you have in your packet has been approved by the EDC attorney. You do not see his red line comments, but if you turn to page 9 of that packet, the one that says 2021, his red line comments suggest that we stop at Article 6, where it says standing committee rules, and don't include anything on money handling, certificate of secretary, reimbursement requests, et cetera, et cetera. So the last 6 or 8 pages of that set would be deleted. His suggestion is to stop at the end of page 9. We would just mark out Article 6, standing committee rules, and go on. Are there any questions about the 3 versions that are being compared? Hearing none, the bylaw review committee is currently still in force. That is Mr. Foster as the vice president as the committee chair, and he appointed Ms. Ball and Mr. Kyle as committee members. That committee and everything else is going to be addressed in the meeting, but at this time I will turn the floor over to Mr. Mr. Foster. Y'all look alike. This is the red line copy? He's corrected it all, thank you.
Oh, okay, never mind. I thought you had asked for it.
No, I'm sorry. Everybody has their red line copy previously. His comment was knock out the last 6 or 8 pages, which did take it down to the 9 pages that he had discussed with Ms. Cooper. Mr. Foster.
All right. To start off with, I'm giving you a handout to look over briefly, but I'd like to start this brief discussion with the council's request. It was item 3A at the last meeting. This was made by Mr. Councilman Yaws. Discuss and or take action to direct the executive director of the EDC, to direct the EDC board to prepare a comparison document demonstrating differences between 1, current council approved bylaws, 2, bylaws recently approved by the EDC board, and 3, bylaws prepared by the executive director. We have copies of those 3 documents that were in our packet, and what I have before you here today is what we view are the major differences of the 3 sets of bylaws. If you take a look at the bylaw difference table, it said these 3 bylaws versions were reviewed. 1, the most current council-approved 2019 amended bylaws for Gun Barrel City Economic Development Corporation, EDC. 2, EDC approved 2021 amended bylaws for Gun Barrel City Economic Development Corporation, and EDC attorney reviewed this. And 3, bylaws prepared by the executive director. We have identified basically only 5 areas where there are major differences. The first one is reporting of EDC board to the executive director. The most current approved City Council 2000 amended bylaws supports this. And number 3, the bylaws prepared by the executive director support this. The second one is the board/treasurer prepares the annual budget. The most current approved 2019 bylaws give that responsibility to the board and the treasurer, not the executive director. And the version provided us from the executive director also gives the preparation duties to the board. In our version, number 2, when I say our, I'm talking about this Economic Development Corporation Board as we sit here tonight. We gave that responsibility to the executive director, so that's a major difference. ED prepares the annual budget. Again, it's a follow-on from number 2. In our version, that's what we've done. We suggested that the ED prepare the annual budget. That's not the case under the current bylaws or those submitted by the executive director. And then the fourth item is the truncation of the bylaws of section 4.12 of Article 4. The executive director provided a set of bylaws that were truncated or not complete. When we started this process, we actually went to the city clerk, city secretary, and got a full version of those bylaws. So the executive director's was truncated after section 4.1/2. The final difference, as we viewed it, is that our version here, and I say our again, the board-approved version, added details to the role of the executive director, the board, the use of funds, transparency, and accountability. These are the 5 major differences that we see on the 3 major sets of bylaws. And this is what I propose that we are open for discussion. If the board thinks there's more than these, we'd be certainly glad to entertain any discussion on that. But given the responsibility of my chairing the bylaws committee, this is our report, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Are there any questions on the differences as presented before we move to any other discrepancies that anybody else sees? Okay, hearing none, we have 50 minutes. This board is welcome to spend the next 50 minutes reading these individual bylaws if you need to. Hopefully you've had a chance to review them since we got our packets. If there's no discussion and we're going to agree to present this to council, then we can consider this task done. Do we have discussion? Okay, apparently not. Give me just a second. Okay, when we go to the meeting, there's a line item to discuss, do an update on the results from the workshop. So if everyone's in agreement that we can submit this to council as it stands, then we're through with that line item. The way this workshop agenda was worded is that this workshop was to discuss budget amendments and to discuss the bylaws comparison. If we are through with the bylaws comparison, unless there's a majority objection, we can move back to the budget and discuss any further budget amendments that Ms. Cooper sees necessary. For example, the 3 grants. So is there any objection to moving back to that in the remaining time that we have? We have approximately 50 minutes. It would, the discussion would have to follow her amended budget amounts or changes to those amounts. So everybody want to do that? Okay. We will go back to budget amendments.
Excuse me, I have only one comment, and that is that this was supposed to be a board activity. It apparently was prepared by one person. That's my only comment. Okay?
Well, thank you for that comment. The board had this packet and had ample time to prepare any differences. Like I said, if we want to spend the next 50 minutes discussing this, we can. I hope everybody got the same thing. Let's just, let's go with consensus here. This is not an official vote. If you're, again, this is not an official vote. We'll just vote from my right, just yes or no. Are you in agreement with this part of the workshop considering our task done so that we can move back to the budget? Vote from my right, please. Ms. Johannes?
Yes.
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 Wyrick, yes.
Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, that said, we can move back to the budget, and we're in agreement with the 10 line items. Ms. Cooper, do you want to attack this, the additional monies that that you're proposing, line by line? How do you want to do this?
Well, it's going to be tricky because we have not yet approved. If you want to amend the budget following a decision, which I'm getting your idea is the plan, then we should just leave the budget as we have done, as it has been amended, and then when we make decisions further on, then I guess you want to amend the budget again. Is that correct?
We could do it either way. We can take the next 50 minutes and take a dinner break if everybody wants to, or in the interest of moving these along, everyone has had weeks to consider these are three additional projects. And I personally find them viable projects. We are over budget. I don't know what council will feel about taking a $118,000 deficit up to almost $200,000. If we don't want to take that chance, we can present this 118 negative, and then we can discuss these projects in the meeting with the understanding that they will not be budgeted until we revise the budget, and we will not revise the budget except for the projects that are agreed on.
I leave that entirely to you. And as you know, we also have one other major consideration coming up that has already been approved by both board and council. And that's something we also, but again, that will mean a budget amendment. That's a totally different deal.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So I think you're talking about the website.
No,
You're talking about the executive session?
project, the project.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, and I gather you are okay with the website now. I understand it was in the marketing and you passed the budget, so I guess we're okay, so that's good.
The website is not in the marketing, is it?
No.
The website is not in the marketing budget.
This board needs a clarification. This board did not, we're talking about budgets, I guess we can do that. This board did not receive the package that council received, so this board needs to see the actual proposal from Golden Shovel.
Okay, and you did see that the contract is exactly the way I had stated it to you.
Okay, and we need to know if the additional years will be 4150 as originally presented.
That's
And you're
correct.
not going to need any of the rest of the stuff.
That's correct. And and by the way, I should tell you too, we got a little bit of good news because Golden Shovel is such a good platform. Their website platform is so good that we are going to get a discounted rate from GIS Planning, which they had told me they might do, and now they have agreed that the first year we are paying the $5,000, which we've already have paid. From then on, we're only going to pay $4,000 because it's easier for them to use Golden Shovel's platform, so they give a break to people who are on it.
Okay. Well, we're talking budget amendments. We can certainly, if you are, Robin, do you have a proposal that states those amounts from Golden Shovel?
Well, yes, it does. It's one that you guys.
Ms. Cooper,
Yes.
while they're going through the paperwork, I didn't read it, but I understand the council was given some additional information that says there are extra ancillary charges for certain things.
This
what,
This
sir?
is not what we got. This is what was presented to
For
council.
what, sir? I'm sorry.
So
That there was optional items
this-
that you could buy
this board's
into
question
that
is-
were above and beyond.
Yes, there will be after our 2-year contract.
And
There are optional
we are
things
going
that we
with
can buy
this
into or not buy
2150
into.
year for the first
Well-
4150
Okay,
is
so-
what we will be paying.
Okay,
And
if we walk
this
away
first 2
from
years includes
certain
this.
items,
But this, after years 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10,
let me let them finish
are
their conversation.
extremely expensive.
Well, after the first 2 years, you can decide if you like it or want to
Oh,
use it.
do we need it?
It's very effective. It's like having another employee.
So Diane, do you have an opinion on the website? My number one,
Very beneficial.
and I think it probably would be,
But we may not want to
but,
continue it.
What do we have to jump up to?
The jump up,
well, the
6,000.
the 4150 is for hosting, maintenance, and technical support. But
Exactly.
after the first 2 years, you have no ongoing content gatekeeper service unless you pay 6,000 a year. Let me finish.
Yes, and the ongoing count,
Let me finish, please.
Oh, sorry.
And then you have no website lead generation and tracking unless you add an additional 42. So that 4150 could very easily go to 14,150 per year.
if you so decide,
Pardon me?
if you so decide.
Well,
So what we can do is, I think we could do what we've agreed upon now, knowing what our budget is and where we're at with the projects and the things that we have going on. And then when we get to that year, we have the option to decide then, is this something that we need? Have we grown so much that we really don't need lead generation or some of these things, right, Gail? So we can
Exactly.
decide. So what we're deciding is the exact numbers that she had given us. Those are all, when we get to that year, we can look at it and make a decision. Is this something we need or we don't need? And that's an annual thing that we can do.
Yeah, but my question is,
and the problem that this board has, multiple people on this board has presented to me is, we did not get this proposal, this went to council. And we as a board, in order to make an educated, informed decision, need full packages. And we based our numbers on $400 or $500 a month instead of $300 that we're currently paying based on these numbers. If that,
And that's correct, yes. Nothing changed. The only reason you did not get that full thing in your packet was because we had a packet this thick, and I did not want you to get confused, not knowing how that contract worked. And obviously, it has caused confusion, so you can see why it was a good choice.
so the board would have
I
got confused, but
named
council
to you-
didn't. One page is all we needed.
I named to you exactly what we were paying. Diane led you through the process. I led you through the money, and that was exactly what it was.
I have a question, or a statement, I guess. I guess the concern is, once we've gone 2 years down this road and we just love the software and it's doing everything we need it to do and it's awesome and everything else, but all those freebies for the first 2 years are now being charged. I can imagine one of them is updating the software, right, on a regular basis. So we have to have that because 2 years from now, we're going to change again. We're going to change every year and grow, hopefully, and those kinds of things. So the two items that drop off as a freebie in the first 2 years are some things that we're going to have to pay for in the future years. And once we're into the software and dedicated to it, it would be silly to say, oh, well, we're just going to drop it and do something else.
I have
So
used the
we're gonna be-
software
we're gonna be
without
cut
the
into
lead
this.
generation and without the $10,000. I have used that. It's still very effective. It's just when you're starting, you want to come in big. You want to make a big impact, and once your name is out there, then you can pull back a little bit. But
So you're honestly saying that after 2 years, we will not need those two other additional
I
supports? and we
cannot
can make-
predict whether we will or not. I'm just saying I have done that website without the lead generation and without the copywriting. The copywriting, by the way, will be all finished in the first year. In the first few months, the copywriting will be done. That's a big part of putting together a website. But in the second year, they like you to include that because you may have screwed up a little bit and not got your website exactly the way you wanted it to be in the copywriting end. But by 2 years, we should have been able to really put together our final website. I think we'll have it put together very quickly because I've done it lots.
In your experience and your expertise, you feel we will not need the additional services?
It's a 50-50. That's all I can tell you. It's a 50-50.
It's a difference in a couple of hundred a month, average over 10 years, and almost $1,400 a month. And this board was looking at like $400, $450 a month average. Ms. Johannes, you've been through this. What's your thought?
I mean, I think that what we're getting to begin with, and if it's done right, like she said, there's not that many changes that should take place. And again, if it's something that we say, hey, depending on what projects happen in the next couple years, we should know that. So we should be able to do that during these 2 years, having a good forecast moving forward. Now, we all know we can't, that's a crystal ball, right? So I don't think that it's a bad thing to have it like it is, and then the board have that decision. When we get in year 2, start thinking, hey, there's some other stuff that's now on the horizon, we're gonna need to do this, and then just working within our budget to plan for that next year. And we don't have to do it every year.
That's what I was going to say. We could add it for
It's an
1 year.
annual decision that we can make, and we can look at it this year and say, hey, guys, next year, we got some other projects going to be going on, so we're going to need to, invest a little bit more in the website because we're going to need to get that information out there. We're going to need to find out what leads there are that can feed into this project or whatever the city's doing at that time. So, no, I wouldn't hesitate to think, number one, this is what they do. This is their wheelhouse is economic development. So we can't get any better. And the fact that they do it for a lot of the cities around us, they've got a good track record with those cities. So, I guess the board, if you want to take the time to call and ask all those people. But I just feel like it's going to build what we need. We certainly don't have anything close to what we need right now, and you all know that. So, I don't feel like I would hesitate, just knowing that we get to make that decision, and we can budget ahead of time. So we're not saying we're going to do it right now. Right now, we're saying exactly what Gail presented in her numbers. And I just understand from websites that this is going to help us certainly down the road, and with the projects that we're looking at. So.
Okay, thank you. So the decision we're faced with here, this board has approved this website at the cost of $21,500 a year. I think we talked 20, but I think we approved it at basically $21,500 a year plus $4,150 additional every year, and $21,500 for the first 2 years. That has already passed. Is anyone of a different opinion that we should add $21,500 to this budget in marketing? Is that correct, Ms. Cooper? In marketing line item before we present this budget to council for approval?
We actually have a website line item.
Line
so
item,
yeah.
I think it'd probably be more appropriate to be under the website line item.
Okay.
Well, and the good news too is it's already going to save us $1,000 from the 5,000 that we're paying.
Yes.
To 4,000, so we're gonna
Be
get
in
it.
that same category.
Yeah, so,
So
I mean.
I would like to see two things, actually three. Currently, Robin is not the one who updates our website. Is that my understanding?
Currently, no one can update our website because our website developer will not allow anything except if he does it at $125 per hour.
Okay.
That's where I'm worried about it.
But that's
I'll
not
tell
what
you
happens with a
Well,
new
okay, Wait a
website.
minute, let me talk now for a few minutes, okay? I've been on the other side of the table where this is all going to. I've seen lots of money spent in this town, over $60,000, $100,000 for projects we're talking about right now. And then next thing you know, boom, they're gone. We don't have the people that's running it no more. Or they've been taught to run the systems and stuff and not here being able to do it now. And now, we're talking about spending $60,000 for a new website and all, which we do need something better, but I'm still looking at the same thing as how much money and overhead are we spending every year in this EDC. It seems like we're spending more now than we ever have. So before we go forward and just jump head over heels in a brand new website, what's the options out here we got? There's not just one EDC website. There's got to be some more out here that we can look at, that our people can, in the future, know how to run it and be able to manage it, instead of us depending on somebody out here that manages it for us.
That's the beauty of this.
If they decide no longer they want to manage it for us, we're stuck with it. And that has happened a lot of times here in Gun City.
That's the beauty of this, because they are economic development, and they actually send out learning tips to the entire ED world, whether you are part of Golden Shovel or not. They are very pro-economic development, and they are credible people. They are not fly-by-night people who are local or who do all kinds of websites, and economic development is something they do on the side. These people do entirely economic development.
let me remind everyone also that this is an approved item by this board.
Yes.
This board voted to go with Golden Shovel. If there are members of this board that feel strongly against that decision, I want to say the time's passed, but we could put it on an agenda item for next month and bring it back up and vote against it if we want to. But at this time, it is a currently approved expense. We just need to get it into the budget. And now that the 21.5 and 41.50 has been explained, then that is what we approved. I would strongly suggest that we add those line items in, or the 21.50 for the next 2 years, 41.50 per year after that on the website line item. Actually, the 21.50 could go up to 20.50 because of the credit.
Right.
So,
No, that's separate. But I really appreciate your having done that, President. Thank you.
so
I'd like to see it maybe tweaked a little bit. We have to first pass an amended budget. I would like to see at next month's meeting another amended budget just to cover this website that explains what we will not have if we don't, in the third year, pay the extra cost, and who would be doing that. And then we can present that to council as another budget amendment, because it's a pretty significant chunk of change. And I don't want to mess, first we got to convince council to let us dip in our reserves to pay for being short so much money.
I don't think we will have a problem with council. I think the problem is that some of the people on the board do not understand that we are not spending money. The council understands that we are investing money in the community, and that's the important part. And this part of marketing is the biggest, because today the world just goes by the website, goes by, well, actually, it's artificial intelligence that's built into it, goes by lead generation, goes by being able to link all kinds of things, and that's what this website will do for us. As Diane said before, it's basically like having a whole staff.
Okay, we're going to have to come to an agreement to either move on with the, adding this 20 and a half to the budget right now, or leaving the budget alone and reviewing this at a later date. Again, I will remind everyone, this is a board-approved expense.
We already did it, yeah.
As such, in my opinion, we need to add it to the budget now. And Ms. Cooper can explain that to council, that it's a board-approved expense. Now, I will listen to anyone's opinions that wants to offer pros or cons to that. We'll start at my right. Ms. Johannes?
Well, and I understand that we all want to understand it better, you know, so if we're going to do this with this company and they're coming in to help us build the website and do all the things that they're supposed to do, Gail, I don't know if they'll come, if we can have them come, or if we can do a Zoom thing in a workshop.
We are doing that, yes.
So if that will probably answer a lot of questions that you have, Ron, as far as, you know, I understand what you're saying. You get somebody and then they disappear, or it doesn't work anymore. The good thing also is that Robin and Gail will be trained throughout this process. Robin will be trained in how to post things, so she can do that. That's not an added expense during the time. Right now, we have to pay Sugar Rock to do it, $150 an hour, and it's not, whether it's an hour or not, we're charged $150 for the hour. So they will actually be able to go in, so it's user-friendly. It's not just the company doing it. Our own staff can do that. So I know that's your concern that you just said, so I get that. But having them come in and make sure that everybody understands how it's going to work and all the components of it, I mean, you know, I get that as well. So I don't see why we couldn't have a workshop where we're trained, where we understand it better, maybe, would be my only thought. I mean, and I thought that when we approved this, we approved it as a budget item when we approved it a few weeks ago. So I thought it was already added to the budget when we did that.
Okay. Ms. Pollard, do you have comments?
Well, we already approved it, so we might as well add it. Plus, I really don't like the idea of going to council saying, this is our budget, knowing that we have an expense that we haven't added to the budget, and then next month going, oh, sorry, we changed our mind, we want to add this too. I think since we agree, for the most part, we might as well add it in.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Paul?
I just have a question about that 4150. That's 4150 a month? 4,150 a month?
No, it's-
That's an annual?
A year.
All right, so that would be paid like up front, like right away, with the 21,500?
No. The 21,150 includes the two, well, when it's doubled, the 42, whatever it is, thousand, includes 2 years of everything. Then we pay 4150 annually after that. In the
Okay.
third year, we start paying 4150.
Okay, so the first expense for this year is $21,500.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, that's
And it
my
would-
only
It
clarification.
would be the same for next year. The following, third year, it would drop to 41.
Got it.
Okay, I have no further comments. Mr. Kyle?
I just really want to see that extra page I have never had the privilege of looking at, to see what software we would not be privy to if we do not continue.
I think Robin
the
has it
extra
right there.
amount.
Robin, could you eventually make a copy of all that for everybody, please?
I think it's very important to know what we may not have
Hey, Robin.
after your first 2 years.
I agree. And for transparency, would you just, could you scan that whole proposal? Because that is a lot of information that the board never had, and it will explain what those individual ads are, what they do and what they don't do.
Or just make copies is fine, Robin. We'll give everybody a copy.
25 pages.
That's That's a lot of paper.
It's a lot of paper.
Yeah, it is. That's why I didn't want to
Is
do
everybody
it.
okay with PDFs?
You know, scan it and email it.
Just scan and email it.
Copy that one page and then scan the whole.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank
That'll give
you.
us time to read it before the board meeting.
Okay, any further questions, or
30 minutes.
comments, Mr. Kyle?
No, thank you.
Mr. Foster?
What then would be our total deficit on the budget, adding this?
It would go from 118 to basically 119 to 129, 39, about 140 and a half-ish.
We're just adding 21 to that 18,746.
Yeah, instead of the 118.
2150, we're adding to that 119 basically?
Well, we'd still have the $1,000 slot, but
Okay.
And for your benefit, I have the copy that Mr. Kyle is aware of. He and Lee put that budget together last year. It was a $319,000 deficit budget.
Are we looking at 20,500?
That's what I believe 20,500 because we'll get an extra $1,000 back.
No, that's GIS planning, that's different.
so let's just leave that extra
It's
$1,000.
$21,150.
It would go to $140,246.
Say that again?
140,246.
140.
Sounds about right.
Where do we stand on how much reserves do we have that are readily available?
How much in reserves? Now, 1.4 million.
Yeah, that's 21.
Is that with land and all, or just cash money?
Pardon me?
Is that actually in the bank?
That is cash.
Is that Techstar?
Our total assets are 4 million.
That's with tech stack, or tech stock, or whatever it is?
Techstar is in there. Yeah, that's cash.
So cash
6,000.
is 1.4?
Sorry?
Cash is 1.4?
Yes. I think it's 1.38
Okay,
at
so
the moment.
rounded out,
But I
gotcha.
haven't been able to read this month.
And I think we're all in agreement that we need to kind of reformat the budget so that it matches the profit and loss, and it's, when we redo this budget, or Ms. Cooper redoes this budget next year, and Susan looks at it and the board votes on it, it'll be easier to understand. I assume, Ms. Cooper, since we're talking about budget, as Mr. Foster pointed out, the 2019 bylaws had the treasurer doing the budget, and your version of rewritten bylaws had the treasurer doing the budget. But since you had stated previously you felt you were better prepared to prepare the budget, the 21 bylaws state that the executive director would prepare the budget. Is that correct, Mr. Foster?
Well, the executive director, I thought I said, would prepare the budget.
Not on
That's
the-
what-
Not on the copy that we have.
Not in the packet you gave us.
So are you willing to prepare
Well,
that?
it's in my job description. That's another thing you need to consider is your job descriptions that the council has already approved. And you have to make sure that your job descriptions coincide with the bylaws. Now,
But they don't,
preparing the budget is in my job description, and I'm sorry, I did think I had put it in.
Okay, well, you can check, but you don't have a problem doing that, okay.
Of course not, no.
Okay.
I should be preparing it because I'm the one who knows what's going on and who can project our activities for the next year.
On a
Okay.
daily basis?
Mr. Foster, did you have further comments on this website?
No.
Being added to the budget?
no.
Mr. Wyrick?
Okay, I just want to run this right down right fast. We're going to be giving, we're going to make a special, we're going to be taking this out of a market budget, this 20,000.
No, it'll be added into website.
It'll be website, so it'll be added into it. And the first 2 years, the first year will be 20, what it says 2150 will be the first year,
And the second,
And the second.
and the second year.
and then it goes.
Then after the third year, it'll be 4150, right? 4,150, and that
Yes.
covers everything they're going to be
No.
doing for us, right?
Unless the council at that time decides that, or, you know, our board decides at that time that they want the additional add-ons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then it'll go up from the 4150 to whatever they add on.
They add
But
on to it,
that will
okay.
be a decision 2 years from now.
As needed.
So that's an additional 15,400 a year.
No, sir, it's not additional.
It would be if you wanted all the bells and whistles.
It's 10 plus, I believe it's 10,000.
I'm reading copywriting at 5,200.
Copywriting?
I'm reading it off this sheet.
Okay, what I just said to you is copywriting is done in the initial year.
So
So you
that's-
do not have to consider that
It's
in
just these
future
two.
years.
So it'd be an additional 10,200.
Yes,
So-
exactly. Thank you,
Second and
Susan,
third
that's what
item
it
is
was.
Ms.
Okay,
Cooper has
second and
highlighted in
third.
yellow. So that's an additional 10.2.
It's only lead generation and whatever that
So
one.
what is ongoing content and gatekeeper service?
That is, what they do is talk with businesses in the area and prepare stories that go on our website about our businesses here. That gives us visibility for our businesses in the community. And it is done on a monthly basis, and we choose which topic we would like to go with. That we have monthly meetings, monthly online meetings, where we tell them what we want them to focus on for the next month. And that's what they do. And then they also incorporate these stories. I can give you one very good example that we did in Palestine. That was a woman who used one of we had $65,000 grants downtown. And she used one of our $65,000 grants and put, well, in the end, she was supposed to be putting 135 total. She ended up putting more than 200,000 into the place. But she made the most magnificent building, which is an office building with 3 office suites plus 3 apartments in it. And that was such a wonderful story that they decided they would do that, and the newspaper picked up on it.
My assumption, Ms. Cooper, if I'm correct, is that it's the opinion of you and Ms. Johannes that after the first 2 years of them including this type service with the package, you and Robin would be trained enough to where you could do that kind of addition on your own. Is that correct?
Well, we probably could. I am hoping that we will be so busy with economic development that it may not have to happen anymore.
So if we're so busy with the economic development that you come to the budget saying we need this additional $6,000 a year or whatever it is, then we can put that into the.
Yes, what we are more likely to need, I strongly believe this community is moving forward rapidly. I am working with developers. We have things happening. I am just not able to disseminate information to them because I don't have a proper website. It's difficult. But when we have it, the developers are going to understand that they can work with us through our website, and they will have links to everything. For instance, our building codes, things like that. We can just link to those, and then they don't have to be coming in. I'm hoping that the city may agree, that's the city's call, but I'm hoping the city may agree to online permitting, which is what a lot of cities do, which saves everybody a great deal of time and effort. So things like that can be done if you have the capabilities, if you have the right programs.
Mr. Wyrick, did you have further comments or questions?
Well, only comment that I worry about most is I've seen so much turnaround in EDC. And I ain't talking about here on this board. And once we pay out this money we're gonna spend right here and just people leave, we're stuck with this here again. And who's gonna be running it?
Well, sir, I left
Hold on,
Palestine a year and a half ago.
Let me get through what I'm talking about. I'm talking to the
Okay.
board now. And I've seen there's a system in there right now that you're talking about, Gail, that these people right here are fixing to do for us, just behind the system that we have right now, that's got everything that they're talking about here. But we can't shut it down. It's behind the original system that Gail's got, or Gail come in here that's got stuck on there in a house with sugar rot, just got all this stuff on here that these people are asking us for, we're approving right now. that's in there that goes out here and talks to all the businesses and take videos and tells them about their businesses here. Hector's,
Sir,
I forget what the rest of them are here, that actually is on our EDC website that's in there. I don't think so, I don't know how to explain it here.
Ms. Cooper, are you aware of what he's talking about?
yes, and it's not correct.
It's,
But the big thing is, I
It's really-
need to point out to you, Ron, that I left Palestine a year and a half ago. They did not have an ED director for 6 months. They finally got Lisa Denton out of Athens, and she is still using Golden Shovel websites because she knows it's the way to go.
well, you know, I ain't knocking Palestine, but we're not Palestine. We're Gunbarrel City. We're totally different from everybody else around
Yes,
here.
we are.
We're the only ones that lives off sales tax and get our money from sales tax. Everybody
Exactly.
else gets it off property tax. So every dime we spend here, or we use here, has to be used in a very well-used spot.
And that is
We
what I
already
am
approved
doing.
this here, so I can't stop it now, and everybody wants to move on with it, so I just want to give my 2 cents on this and how everybody understands where I'm at on it, because I'm one of those going to be tightening the screw down from now on out. Just spending money left and right, I'm like a magnifying glass. I'm going to be looking at every bit of it. But this here, we've already passed it, and we're going to push it up to council and see if they'll approve it. I've looked at some other different websites that some of the smaller companies or cities smaller than ours has, that they did themselves and made up. And I will say it's a flip of the coin. These people, they might be outstanding, you know, for what they do. They're probably top of their grade. But we're small country people down here. We ain't big cities. We ain't like some of these other ones, you know, that we're going to grow 10 times the size of this one here. I've seen this city here double itself in 2 years, but it was just happened. And since then, it hadn't doubled that fast. And that's just how I look at it. It might be a good thing, but my biggest worry is once we get this in here, somewhere down the road it flip-flops and we lose directors and everybody else over again, who's going to pick it up and run with it and make sure it keeps running right? So that's my only concern.
Thank you, Mr. Wyrick. Are there further comments from the board?
Not on this, I just have a question
Okay.
that we had discussed in our last meeting when we were in the other room. We talked about having a set reserved fund balance. And so I don't know when we're going to discuss that, but we know what our balance is right now. And so that we're not just spending every dollar we have. And I know that that was something that the board had we had some discussion. So I don't know if that's anything applicable for tonight, but I think it would help all of us if at least this is my thought. On any other board, we always had that, so we knew we were not going to get, and it would take an act of Congress, not literally, but you know what I mean, to spend below that. And I think that we certainly could use that, and it would help all of us feel better about, because you feel like, well, we're overspending. Well, we have $1.4 million, so we spent more than we budgeted up to this point, but we're not like about to go broke, and it makes you feel that way when you're in a deficit spend, and I understand that. So cautious spending, I'm definitely cautious and conservative when it comes to spending. So I just think that that's something that the board can discuss later or whenever we do that. We really need to operate with that to be fiscally responsible.
And I agree with that, too. The normal amount that a nonprofit keeps in their coffers and does not touch is 6 months operating costs. Now, our operating costs I have estimated at $100,000 per quarter. That's why we're transferring $100,000 per quarter into our operating fund so we don't have to do these constant transfers, which means that $200,000 is approximately our operating fund amount. However, because we are an economic development organization, I would suggest we make it $300,000 that we do not touch, that that everybody can feel very comfortable with, we don't bring our balance down below $300,000. That would be my recommendation.
Have you even begun to think about creating our new fiscal year budget?
Sorry?
I said, have you actually begun thinking about creating our new fiscal year budget?
Sir, we haven't even amended this year's budget. I'm doing my best.
Well, I think it's a good idea that you include that on the new budget.
Oh, I will.
I think it's an
yes.
excellent
As
idea.
I will, if you recommend it, and it doesn't have to be a board decision. If you recommend that we put $300,000 into it, according to the way we report to the controller, that is set-aside funds. And we would say that we have $300,000 in set-aside funds. And I am perfectly in favor of that.
Okay, thank you. My comment here is, Mr. Johannes, that would have been my ideal goal, yes. We're running out of time rapidly because of all the extended comments. So at this point, and I'm trying to take this one step at a time, and this, again, this is unofficial, this is simply a poll. From my right, is everyone in favor, yes or no, of adding the $21,500 to this amended budget that we're proposing to give to council for a new total of
$140,246.
what she said? From my right, please.
Yes.
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 No.
Okay, so it is 5-2. Again, this is an unofficial vote, but I will assume that everyone's going to vote accordingly in the meeting. So that's what we will be taking into the meeting. We have about 8 minutes left. Ms. Cooper, my initial thought was you had made the comment several times that we were not overspent. You had spent approximately half of your annual budget.
Yes.
So my thought is that at some point, hopefully before the next meeting or at some point in time during the next meeting, you could present an additional revised budget with other items as you see fit. For example, if we pass these 3 projects tonight on the condition that they are budgeted, then you could also propose a contingent or a makeup fund for the rest of this fiscal year. But we would have to see, as I mentioned before, where that money is reallocated from, whether it's all from savings or whether there's some underspent categories or what. And perhaps you want to give that a shot with the bookkeeper first, knowing what we're going for. You can take your shot, and we can have two different looks at the same problem, and then maybe at the next meeting we can propose to amend the budget by an additional X thousand dollars to get us through the end of the year and get this 1, 2, or 3 projects or whatever else we're planning.
But we are doing that tonight, right?
We would not be able to do that tonight. We would agree to vote on this budget as $140,000. We have 7 minutes left.
Okay, well then I must ask you, even if you are not making a formal adoption of the amended budget, that you
It will be a formal adoption of the amended budget.
Yeah, you will be?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
that's all I was asking.
It will be a formal adoption of the amended budget.
At this
as we have
meeting.
discussed. During the
At this
meeting.
meeting tonight,
Yes.
because the rest of the projects have to be done.
Okay, the rest of the projects would have to be on next month's.
No,
amended budget.
now, because they've been waiting 3 months. And one of those, which is in our executive session, is critical.
But we have not heard that. So how can we budget an additional, I mean, you're talking an additional $250,000.
No, I'm not, sir. The 225,000.
Well,
Yes, you are going to have to, because you want to do it that way. We will have to do an additional 2.25, because that's what you're asking me to do. However, the one that is in our executive session, we have to look at separately. Okay, that's all I can say.
And I understand that.
Clarification.
Is this board willing to budget an additional $225,000 over and above this 140
I am,
in the next minute?
I am.
No.
No?
Let's start from the right. Mr. Honest?
Well, I don't,
I'm sorry?
wait a minute, what is the 200, what-
It's for the,
It's the
project.
project that we've had forever that we can't do anything
so it's the
about.
project?
So it would be an additional 225,000, is that correct?
well, not in my budget, but apparently in Susan's, it looks that way.
How much is it, Ms.
So how much is it?
It would be additional 75,000 because everything
It's
else is already taken care
$75,000
of in the
for
adjusted budget that
3
we're putting
grants.
forward.
Okay, so it's 3 for, okay, that's where I got confused. So it's
75 for those 3 grants, but
75.
nothing for anything else?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
Yes,
for
I'm
those
fine
3
with that
grants
because
that
we've
we
had
have
them
already.
on the agenda for the last 3 meetings, and either we need to tell the people yes or let them forget that we're going to help them. So I'm going to
That'll
say
take
yes.
us from 140 to 215-ish.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm a little bit concerned, and I'm going to state my concerns here. I do not see anything on our agenda to discuss as unfinished or old business.
All of it.
I see everything listed as new agenda items. It was brought to your attention that 2 out of the 3 proposals were on improper
75.
proposals, and one of them was only half.
My 140 is,
So it was,
Sir, we're not discussing the agenda right now.
well, I cannot support putting money into something that I would not support.
That's your prerogative.
Do we have it in our new package?
Okay. During the discussion for these 3 projects, we can make it a stipulation that, I believe Robin's already started the new applications, that the applications be on the correct form, that they be complete, and that they have all the pages instead of half the pages. So that said, we need to see if we can get a consensus. We're either approving a budget during the meeting or voting on a budget during the meeting of 140 or 215. So the additional $75,000 to be presented as an amended budget, that 75 to be 3 $25,000 grants in our meeting. It's coming up in about 8 minutes. Vote, in unofficial vote, this is a poll. From my right, please.
Yes.
no.
Yes.
No?
No.
4 to 3.
4 to 3, no. Okay, that's how we're going to end up voting, is to present a $140,000 amended budget. At this time, we are on about a 7-minute break. The workshop is closed. We're on a 7-minute break. We will reconvene for the meeting at 7 o'clock.